Hi everyone, Hillary Topper here for We Are Triathletes, and I am so psyched to have Jared Ward with us today. Jared is an Olympian and an elite runner, and we're going to talk all about his experience with the Olympics and also all about recovery and how he recovers from all of these different races that he gets into. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Jared Ward.
Hey, thanks, Hillary. It's so good to be here.
So tell me, let's talk first about the Olympics, okay?
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about the Olympics.
Oh man, it's just a crazy experience in so many ways. It's everything that you see on TV up closer. And so I don't know. I think the biggest thing to me was how cool it was that all of these countries could come together and compete in like this, in what seems like a very like raw, wholesome, I don't know, my attitude of competition, and that all of the political barriers come down. In the opening ceremonies, there were people marching in from every country that you can imagine, that we're in the middle of at least political warfare with, and thinking that, none of that matters here. We're just here to compete and to have fun and to give out some medals. And that was such a cool aspect of the Olympics to me.
So tell us a little bit about what was it? What distance did you run?
So I ran the marathon.
Wow. And what's your favorite distance with these types of events?
Oh man. So my favorite is probably the half marathon. I think that is that to me is just like the healthy sweet spot distance. But there's no half marathon in the Olympics, and I don't have quite the speed to step down onto the track for a 10K, and so that leaves me with the marathon.
And you ran the New York City Marathon this past year as an elite runner. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how fast you actually did it in?
Well, we were talking a little off camera about that New York City Marathon and how fun it is to run through those 5 boroughs. We were talking about running through Brooklyn and how much you and I both love that experience. But I don't know, it's crazy to run through New York City because it's almost like you're touring the world. It's like this little mini Olympic experience in that, you have all of these, it's an ethnic melting pot of the world, right? Mm-hmm. And New York really comes out for the marathon. I'll never forget. I mean, people had talked about coming off of the Queensboro Bridge onto First Avenue and how loud that section is with noise and cheering. And it was definitely loud, but the noise and energy started all the way, after the bridge coming into Brooklyn. And I mean, the crowds were amazing. The New York experience and feel was amazing. And I was fortunate to put together a good race. I hadn't felt like my training was perfect going in, and I talked with Coach about just going out there and seeing what we could do. And in fact, I had even called the race director about 6 weeks before the race, and I just said, "Hey, I'm not going to be in top form. I don't know that I should race this year." And he just said, "Jared, we would love to have you, even if you're not in top form. And if it means you only run half the race, then you only run half the race, but we'd love to have you come out here and give it a shot." And so it took a lot of pressure off. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to come and run and see what happens. And so I kind of swung for the fences, if you will. And I just started at a pretty honest pace, especially given the training that I'd had. And I feel like New York just kind of carried me through. And I did slow a little bit towards the end, but I was able to finish in 2 hours and 12 minutes and 6th place overall, and was
wow.
the American finisher.
That is,
and it was fun.
Awesome. Congratulations to you.
Well, thanks.
So walk us through your regimen. I have a lot of relatively new runners. I mean, we've got triathletes, we've got new triathletes, we've got experienced triathletes. We've got new runners. Talk about what you do to prepare for these races, and then what do you do during the race, and then follow up with what you do after the race in terms of preparation, including hydration, nutrition, that type of thing. And then we'll get into recovery.
Yeah, sure. Well, and it's all important, you know, that like taking care of your body is important, and you want to make sure that you're fueled enough. And so I think I definitely think of my training more in terms of what I need to put in my body as opposed to what I need to avoid. I think that when we focus on what we need to get in and the nutrients that we need, and you know, a balanced intake of proteins and carbohydrates and healthy fats and things like that, then you know, we kind of end up weeding out the weeds because we're so focused on all of the good that we're getting into us. And hydration is certainly important, and the electrolyte balance is something that does matter. It seems like a lot of times when people are bonking out during races because we say they're dehydrated, what's actually happened is just dehydration at the cellular level, because we haven't taken care of replenishing electrolytes. And so I think making sure going into the race that we're drinking some, you know, at least some sort of electrolyte blend, whether that's your Gatorades or your Powerades, or you can opt for things that have less sugar if you don't want as much sugar, but making sure that we're getting those salts and those, you know, maybe it's just eating a baked potato and putting salt on it, right? And you get kind of a potassium sodium blend that way, but making sure that you're getting in those electrolytes, and then during the race that you're doing a little bit of replenishing those. You're not just drinking water, you're at least taking something else. I mean, you probably want to be taking some sugars and things if your race is longer than an hour, or especially longer than 2 hours, but also replenishing some of that stuff. And that's all important. But I think there's a lot of approaches to diet, if you will, and exercise. And there's so many approaches that work. Like, I think that there's, you know, I race guys at the Olympics that trained completely different than me, but still were ready for the race. And so I think you bite into a program, you get excited, you get behind something that has some scientific backing and that people have had some success with, and then you bite into the training philosophy and the nutrition philosophy and you go for it. And then after that, the biggest aspect becomes your mentality. And are we on a program that's sustainable? Can we continue day in, day out to produce those results? Are we still excited to get out of bed in the morning? Are we not so tired or so overworked that we get injured? Like, creating a sustainable approach is something that's going to yield way better results in the long run. Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
And
yeah, talk to me about that. Like, let's talk about the recovery days. I mean, how important are they really?
They're important. They're important. And it's important to have a balance in our training. You know, we want to have some days where we push ourselves, but when we push ourselves, that means we need days to recover. And recovery has a lot of aspects to it. Recovery means fueling, replenishing those carbohydrate stores, getting some protein in to rebuild the muscular damage that's happened. But also it means resting. And it means, you know, having a low intensity day or a low volume day. And then there are a lot of things that we can do to help recover, you know, to help aid that process along. There's been a lot of research in stuff like compression and massage and things like that. There's even stuff with more evasive things like, you know, dry needling. Think of it as like the acupuncture version of just muscular recovery. And then there's less evasive home remedy approaches like heat and vibration. And there's a lot of research that back those in that can give you just a little additional edge to this recovery, and maybe make it so that you can bounce back a little bit quicker and don't have to afford yourself quite as much downtime in between hard efforts.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about recovery, okay? When would you start to use these different types of devices? Right after you run an 8-mile run, or you know, a half marathon or whatever? Or is it just as simple as running, you know, a 5K, and then you could use that? And then let's talk there first.
Yeah. Well,
With
I
some
think,
questions.
you know, recovery is all relative, right? And so for someone who's relatively new at running, you go out and you run a 5K, and your recovery you might need to take that recovery as serious as a longer distance runner that goes out for a 20-mile run. And so it's all about building up our body's resiliency and our ability to run those longer and faster miles, or bike those longer and faster miles. And I think it's not just that you had a short run, so your body's fine. I think it all depends on where we're at. And so I certainly think there are things that we can do to help us recover from the state that we're in. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm almost, I don't know, like anxious when I get in the door, and I have 4 kids at home and a beautiful wife that's home taking care of them. But when I come home from long training sessions, my kids are so excited that I'm in the door, and I have to figure out creative ways to involve them in the recovery process that I feel like is important right then. I need to get down and make sure vibration for me has made a big difference. And that's been for the last number of years, you know, different equipment that's come out, and then, you know, working on developing some myself. But the vibration has been huge. And so when I get home, I think, okay, if I want these muscles to feel good 5 hours later, when I need to go and have another workout session, I need to be serious about right now making sure that I'm getting some blood flow and some healing to those muscles. And I think that right after exercise time is a very critical time. I mean, you know, the days when you're in a hurry and you finish a hard run and you just have to hop in your car and hurry home, and you have to hurry and get breakfast ready and get your clothes on and get out the door for work. And then you're on your way to work, and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I am tighter than I thought I was. And then you realize I didn't give any time for recovery. And so I think that time right after running for me is big in terms of taking care of some things really quick, so that next run I'm feeling better.
So Jared, you've been involved with Milestorm since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk? I mean, I know you were the first, one of the first investors in it. Can you talk about the product, why you got involved with it?
Yes, and then I'll show you the product.
Good.
But for me, so I'm an academic. I teach as a member of the adjunct faculty at BYU in the statistics department, and so I'm this kind of nerdy researcher. And while I love everything that seems to work in terms of just experimenting with my body and seeing what it feels like, I also really bite into what the academic research says as it relates to muscular recovery and training and all sorts of things. And in fact, I'm involved in a number of studies where we look at things like nutrition or biomechanics or pace strategy or recovery or things like that, where we do this clinical research on campus. And so the research means something to me. And so when Jono and Shaq, the founders of Milestorm, came to me and said, hey, this is the research. These are optimal frequencies and amplitudes for vibration to aid blood flow and muscular recovery. This is what HEAT says on muscular recovery and blood flow. And we're thinking about creating this compact recovery vibrating heating device that is going to be tuned specifically to what the research says is optimal. And it's going to be lightweight, travel size, and do you think that that's something that the world will like? And I said, absolutely. In terms of athletes, I think athletes are clamoring for this, this perfect one cure-all device. You know, I have thousands of dollars of equipment, of recovery equipment, in this room that we're sitting in from Normatec boots to recovering my legs to rollers and foam rollers and other vibrating stuff. I have a buffer from Harbor Freight that I use for, and so all of this stuff. And I'm like, yes, if you have one thing that can do all of that, people are going to love it. And, and I've been traveling, checking a bag because I have to fit on these clunky foam rollers into my bag when I travel. And so when they said, hey, we're thinking about making this thing, I said, absolutely. I want in tell me what you need. And so I was very excited when they said, okay, we want to bring you on as an endorser of our product, as an athlete. And we'll let you know kind of as we get closer. And then as we got into production phases and things, and they said, hey, we're going to need some money to make molds and stuff like that. I was an anxious investor, and I really bought into it. I think they've made an awesome product, and this is it. And so it's just small and compact. It's rigid. It has a rubber outer shell. And so it can get deep into my muscle, which I like. I think oftentimes, I worked with trainers at BYU who would say, oh, those foam rollers are too soft. You need to get a rolling pin or something like that. And they were a lot more kind of get after it and be a little bit more assertive. And so this is probably the cross in between the two, right? This isn't quite a rolling pin, but it's more rigid than a foam roller. And then it heats and vibrates. And so it has been just so perfect. The battery life is like 4 or 5 hours. So I just charge it up. And today when I leave to New York later today to go run the half marathon we were talking about kind of offline this Sunday, this is all I'll take because I can use it after I get off the plane to kind of vibrate and recover and reboost my legs there. And then I'll use it a few days before the race, and then certainly right after the race to try to loosen things up before I get back on the plane to come home. And so I think they've done an awesome job in terms of the R&D on this product. And I couldn't be happier with the trajectory of Milestorm and this product, the Meteor, and we're seeing an incredible response. And so it's been a fun ride to be a part of. And there are numbers of ways to recover, right? Just like we talk about training and nutrition, and we got to find something that works for each of us individually. But I look at the Meteor as a one tool device that really carries a lot of utility. And so yeah, I've been excited to be a part of Milestorm. I mean, they run the show, and I'm just kind of here to be excited about, the new products that come out. And
so how exactly does it work? I mean, so you've got this ball, right? Do you have to lay on the ball? Do you just?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
multiple ways. Like I'll light it up when I'm ready to go, and I'll turn on the vibration. You can hear it there, just kind of buzzing a little bit in the heat. And then, yeah, you can set it on your back and then lean against a chair, getting those neck and back muscles. I'll normally do it on the ground where I'm like putting my body weight on it. I love it for like glutes and hips and stuff like that. But when I'm doing my shins, a lot of times I'll just, I'll pull up my leg and then I'll just be pulling it right along my shin muscle as it goes down. So, yeah, I think a lot of the times I'm on the ground using it, but it's because it carries that heat and that vibration, you don't need quite as much pressure. So it's not like you have to dig in like a massage therapist would dig in. You can kind of let that vibration do that work for you. So it's not quite as painful, I don't think, to get the same benefit. But yeah, I can just hold it and kind of rub it up and down my shin, or sit on it or lay on it, and so there's it's kind of a use however you will device.
So talk to us a little bit about vibration and heat and what it does for recovery.
Good. So the main thing is that it increases blood flow. And there are numerous studies where they've taken, especially using like ultrasound to look at the muscle, and you can see from the muscle the blood flow in the muscle. You can capture that image from ultrasound, and so they've done research on both heat and vibration, and then captured the images of the muscle prior to heat and vibration, and then after, and it's just this increased blood flow. And so, the idea is that, at least the theory behind why it helps, I mean, there's been causal studies that have determined that it does make a difference in things like injury prevention and how athletes feel in terms of recovery. But the theory is that you get more blood flow in, and that extra blood flow can work to carry out the byproduct of exercise. So when we're exercising, we're breaking down oxygen and and hydrogen in the muscles as we metabolize the glucose and the fats. And then that leaves a byproduct. And that byproduct is carried through our blood and then filtered out of our system. And so if you can increase blood flow after exercise, then that process is happening a little bit quicker. And so the idea is that it just jumpstarts that recovery process. Probably something that would happen on its own, but we'd have to wait a little bit longer.
So would you recommend rolling out
Yes.
before and after? Yeah. Really?
Yes. So I think it's huge because, and that's just for me, and maybe it's partly changed as I've gotten older. I think when I was a college athlete in my early 20s, I felt a lot more invincible in terms of just showing up on workout day and running and then finishing the workout and going and doing whatever. But now I do notice that I need to spend a little bit of time getting my body ready for exercise. And I think that the vibration, it just helps how I feel. So I look at vibration before running as this loosening up muscles, just trying, I can stretch my hamstring and note the flexibility or the inflexibility as it happens to be for this marathoner. And then I can vibrate that hamstring and stretch again, and I can just stretch further. And so I think it works as a loosening up and kind of making me feel a little bit more mobile before my run. So definitely I come in and I'm spending a few minutes vibrating right before I go run, and then after I run, on this idea of recovery.
So how long do you actually do this? I mean, you said a few minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, how long?
Until things feel
does
good.
It depend?
So, it does. It depends on how I feel, and it depends on, how hard I've worked the day before and how snug I wake up in the morning in terms of muscle tight. So yeah, I would say most of the time it's just a few minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes on a few muscle groups that I'm always getting my glutes and my kind of external rotators on the outside of my hips there. I think hip mobility is huge for staying healthy as a runner. If you can keep that kind of that engine type area moving well, I think we get a lot less lower leg injuries. And so I'm always spending some time there. But then if I have somewhere that's kind of been a hot spot, I'll spend a minute or two on getting my shin warm, or, my hamstring, or whatever I've been feeling, for the last couple of days. But it's just a few minutes. And like I say, I'm running in, the kids are home and they're excited to play. And so it's not like I'm in there spending an hour doing different recovery stuff. It's just a few minutes, but I think the investment of a few minutes makes a difference. And sometimes when my schedule is so tight, I feel like that, I got to be running in and getting out the door. I'll think, you know what, I need to cut my run a half a mile short just so I have that extra 3 or 4 minutes to get inside and just do a little bit of recovery. And that's going to make more of a difference for me than getting another half mile of running in.
So how does Meteor compare to other vibration type products?
There's a lot of them out there. But I think in terms of a vibrating, heating travel product, I don't think there's anything better. There's other products that vibrate. There's other products that heat. There's some that have tried to integrate heat and vibration, but they haven't done it very well. It's not a very quality product. There's vibrating foam rollers. There's stuff like Theragun, where you're holding a gun and it's vibrating, but those cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And none of those things, I don't think, can target an area well while still being a travel compactable recovery device. And so I really look at the Meteor as filling a niche of its own. I mean, it's maybe a little bigger than a softball. I mean, I carry this in my carry-on on the plane in case I get a little snug. I'm going to have a 5-hour flight later today. It'll be in my backpack under my chair, just in case I want to stand up, walk around, vibrate for a second. I can do this sitting in my chair or walking in the aisle as I walk to the bathroom. And so
it's a great idea.
It's just easy. And I do think it fills a niche in the recovery device world where, it's just, it's a product that stands by itself. I think they've done such a good job creating it. The R&D with the mechanical engineering at the university is incredible. We've got professors that are working on it and tuning it, and so it's really gone through a thorough development.
And it's TSA approved? I mean, you don't.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I took it on my last one. I had it in my, I had it in the water bottle holder of my backpack, and the lady pulled my backpack out and took it out to run through again. And she said, "That's bigger than a cell phone. It needs to come out." And I said, "It's an electronic bigger than a cell phone." So I set it in a bin by itself, just like I set my laptop in a bin. But yeah, that I was worried the first time. I thought, well, it's kind of round, it's rigid. I mean, it looks like it could be something different than it is, right? But yeah, I guess, I mean, so
That's
far.
cool. Cool. I don't want to jinx it.
Yes, right.
So talk to me. How has recovery changed as you get older?
It becomes a much bigger part. I think when I was younger, I always thought of fitness and being ready for a race as I just need 8 weeks, and I need to put my head down and hammer the training for 8 weeks, and then I'll be fit enough to race. And if I hammer it for 3 or 4 months, then I'll be fit enough to peak for the end of a season. And so it was very much a put your head down and push through it. And now, even just 10 years later, I just turned 30. My approach very much is, if I can stay healthy, then I'll be fit at the end of the season. And so it's much less about showing up at a workout and just hitting it out of the park. And like these, I just don't focus on it the same way. It's so much more about staying healthy and making sure I go through the entire season healthy. And I know if I show up on the start line, I'm running the Boston Marathon in 5 weeks. Training has gone fantastic. And I know if I show up on the start line and I'm healthy, that I'm going to be ready to go. And so it really is, it's changed to this recover, keep things healthy kind of mindset, and vibration's been a big part of that.
Awesome. So tell me what your plan is going forward, 2020.
So certainly I'm looking forward to the Olympic cycle. I'm excited for the New York Half Marathon this weekend. I'm excited for the Boston Marathon in 5 weeks, and I'm very much focused on those. But as soon as the Boston Marathon's over, my focus shifts to the U.S. Team Olympic selection race for the marathon that's in Atlanta next February. And so I got to get ready and prepare for that marathon. And if I run well there, then I'm selected for the team to go to Tokyo next summer. And I had such a blast in Rio, and feel very fortunate to be healthy and strong and fit right now. And so I think as long as I can continue to stay healthy and take care of my body, I really think that I can hope to make that team. And so I'm very excited about it. The idea of Olympics in Tokyo is pretty incredible. They're going to do such an awesome job putting it on, and it's going to be a special experience, just like all the other Olympics.
So one last question from the crowd. Is there a critical period after a workout which you should get into the foam roller or using any other recovery device?
I think so. I think much like I very much look at the finish of a workout as there's a 30-minute critical period to get food into you, some sort of, primarily I think carbohydrates, because those your body's most receptive to replenishing those glycogen stores within the few minutes after workouts. And so, but some protein too, if you can. And it doesn't have to be a lot, 200-300 calories, but right after finishing within a half an hour, that makes a huge difference. And similarly, I would say with getting foam rolling and things, well, when your muscles are warm, it just seems like they're so much more receptive to this kind of blood flow idea. And I don't know if the research on that is as extensive. It's harder to You know, it takes a little bit more involvement to control a group that exercises and then comes in and recovers. And so I don't know that there's causal research to support that, but I can say that I feel like I need to get on this, you know, rolling out kind of idea before I'm cold, before my muscles are no longer warm. And that probably happens in around 15 minutes. And so I think, yeah, I'm looking for my granola bar and I'm looking for my Meteor as soon as I walk in the door, and trying to get those things in me. And once I get that done, then I think you have probably a good solid hour before you need to worry about really getting a meal in or some of these other things. But I do think that there is a critical window.
Wow, that's great advice. You know, it's just, I guess, getting into the mindset of being able to do these things, and
Yes.
that's the key to this.
The workout's not over until I've eaten and I've rolled out. Right?
Awesome. Jared Ward for MyoStorm. MyoStorm is one of the sponsors of We Are Triathletes. And as a member of We Are Triathletes, we get a discount. We get a significant amount off. So there is a discount code, and it is in the newsletter and on the Facebook group page. So you can get it there. And Jared, is there anything you want to add before we end?
No, it's been so fun to talk with you, and I appreciate everything that you're doing, Hillary. I think it's awesome to incorporate just everybody that wants to get fit and be healthy in kind of a fun way like this. And so I commend what you're doing, and encourage everyone to just stick with it. There's hard phases in training and there's humps to get over, but typically there's some silver lining in there somewhere if you can stick to a program. And so I encourage you to stick to it and have a little bit of faith in yourself, and trust that the you of next week can handle it if you push the you of this week. And so yeah, I encourage you to just keep on keeping on. And if you're looking for an extra way to recover, I'd check out MyoStorm, because I really, obviously I'm an investor in the product and I was with them from the beginning. So I'm a little biased, but I do think that they've made an incredible product, and they're going to do some good things. And so take advantage of that discount.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Okay, thanks.